first two wars between India and Pakistan did not resolve the problems between them. Any tension in the disputed Jammu and Kashmir state or along the border had major potential to flare up the war between the two sides once again. But the Third Indo-Pakistani War in 1971 did not happen because of the disputed status of Kashmir. It happened because of the events transpiring in the region at the time known as East Pakistan. Welcome to our video on the Third Indo-Pakistani War. Every week we release 3 new exclusive videos for our members and patrons. The Pacific War, the Eastern Front of World War II Prelude, and many other series, including the War of Spanish Succession, Punic Wars, Iberian Reconquista, Russian Revolution and Civil War, North African and Italian campaigns of World War II, and much more. It has been long overdue, but we have finally created a YouTube channel exclusively for our Kings and Generals podcasts. Please go and check out Kings and Generals podcast, home to the Pacific War Week by Week podcast and the Fall and Rise of China podcast, link in the description and pinned comment. To see those, as well as get access to our exclusive Discord, see our schedule, and get early access to all videos, join the ranks of our patrons and YouTube members via the links in the description and pinned comment. Thanks to our supporters for allowing us to continue doing our dream job. The partition of India, of course, led to the creation of 2 countries, India and Pakistan. An important detail here is that the Pakistan we know today was different from the post-partition Pakistan, specifically in terms of its borders. The partition plan resulted in Pakistan governing over 2 non-connected regions, West Pakistan, or modern-day Pakistan as we know it, and East Pakistan, what is now Bangladesh. But there were very clear distinctions between how these 2 separate territories were being governed. The seat of power was in West Pakistan, with at first Karachi and then Islamabad becoming the nation's capital. The political, military and economic elite was dominated by Western Pakistanis, and there was widespread perception of economic discrimination and political disenfranchisement in East Pakistan, despite the fact that the majority of the population lived in East Pakistan, and despite the fact that Bengali, the predominant language in East Pakistan, was the most widespread language of Pakistan as a whole. This did not prevent the Pakistani government from not recognizing Bengali as a state language, along with Urdu, immediately after the partition. This paved the way to the Bengali language movement in East Pakistan in 1952, which culminated in police firing at protesting students in Dhaka on February 21, 1952. And even though the Pakistani government eventually agreed to designate Bengali as a state language in 1956, the discrimination against East Pakistan continued. Despite providing most of the exports of Pakistan, East Pakistan received only around 30% of the state investment, against some 70% enjoyed by West Pakistan. In 1966, the 6-point movement, launched by the most popular party of East Pakistan, the Awami League, and its leader, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, demanded autonomy. The proponents of autonomy were labelled separatists by the Pakistani government. Tensions were on the rise. In November 1970, just a month before the general elections in Pakistan, the Great Cyclone of 1970 struck East Pakistan, killing at least 300,000 people. The Pakistani government was strongly criticized for a poor relief response, which only exacerbated the perception of discrimination against the Bengalis. This arguably boosted the popularity of pro-autonomy or pro-secession forces in East Pakistan. The Awami League won the most votes and 167 seats in the 1970 general elections to the Pakistani parliament, clearly gaining a mandate to establish a new government. But the president of Pakistan, Yahya Khan, and the rest of the Western Pakistani elite had no intention to give power to East Pakistan, which increased the calls for secession. Clashes between Bengalis and the Pakistani army started taking place in early 1971. Bengali mobs also targeted Biharis, an Urdu-speaking Muslim population who migrated to East Pakistan from Bihar and other parts of India following the partition. Biharis were seen as aligned with West Pakistan and were targeted for this reason. On March 1, 1971, the Bengali mobs killed over 300 Biharis, which gave the pretext for the Pakistani government to launch Operation Searchlight. On March 25, 1971, the Pakistani military, led by General Tika Khan, started a massacre of the Bengali and Hindu population of East Pakistan. The army and pro-Pakistani mobs killed some 300,000 people. These events would later be called the Bangladesh Genocide. Millions of Bengalis fled the violence to India. The huge influx of refugees and the massacre of Hindus in East Pakistan was inevitably going to turn India into a party to this conflict. There was huge pressure on the Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to intervene. And although initially Gandhi was reluctant to carry out military intervention, India started helping the Bengali paramilitary with training and money. At the time, to retaliate against the Pakistani atrocities, the Bengalis would organize in Mukti Bahini paramilitary units. Many Bengalis serving in the Pakistani army defected and joined the Mukti Bahini. This paramilitary put up significant resistance to the Pakistani army through sabotage and guerrilla operations, significantly degrading the military's ability to effectively control East Pakistan beyond its largest cities. Throughout 1971, the Mukti Bahini continued successfully resisting the Pakistani military, controlling some of the countryside territory and border outposts with India. A lot of fighting was going on in the border territories, with India sometimes offering support with its air force and artillery, especially when the Pakistani army attempted carrying out cross-border operations against the Bengali paramilitary. For a while, these relatively small-scale incidents did not rise to the level of a full-scale war. But on December 3, 1971, everything changed. On this day, the Pakistan Air Force carried out a daring operation, trying to replicate the hugely successful preemptive strike by the Israeli Air Force in the Six-Day War. Operation Chinggis Khan was supposed to significantly damage the Indian capacity to conduct air war by destroying their planes, air bases, and radar stations. The Pakistani Air Force bombed the Pathankot, Amritsar, Srinagar, Avintapur, Utalai, Jodhpur, Ambala and Agra air bases, but the damage to the Indian Air Force and its infrastructure was negligible. The element of surprise was lost, without much to show for it. India retaliated with a similar air campaign, which was more successful, gaining advantage in the air for the rest of the war. On the following day, the Indian Navy conducted a surprise attack on the Karachi harbour, destroying several Pakistani ships and effectively blockading West Pakistan. With both the Navy and Air Force significantly weakened, now supplying the forces in East Pakistan was becoming an impossible challenge for Pakistan, and to divert Indian attention from East Pakistan, which was now impossible to properly supply, thus pretty much indefensible, the Pakistani command decided to attack on the Western Front, to force the Indians to divert their attention here. For the first time in the history of the Indo-Pakistani conflict, the war was fought on two distinct fronts. And while both fronts were important for the outcome of the war, you can argue that the war fought in East Pakistan was key to deciding it. Let's first look at how the war transpired on the Western Front. The Pakistani army launched its first ground offensive in Jammu and Kashmir, aiming to capture Aknor and cut off the supply line to Jammu. Here, the Pakistani 23rd Infantry Division, supported by an armoured brigade, pushed back the 10th Infantry Division to capture Mandiala Heights on December 4th. After defeating fierce Indian counterattacks, the Pakistanis once again went on an offensive and captured Champ on December 6th. The Indian army here withdrew beyond the river Munawar Tawi. To prevent the further advance, the Indians blew up the bridge over this river. On December 10th, the Pakistani army attempted to cross the river at the Dar and Raipur crossings, but these costly attacks were repulsed by the Indians. After that, this sector of the battlefield became more or less quiet until the end of the war. Pakistan captured some ground, but ultimately failed to reach its strategic goal of altering the status quo in Kashmir. A similar fate awaited the Pakistani offensive in the Poonch sector. The Azad Kashmir units attacked the positions of the 93rd Infantry Brigade to capture Poonch, but once again, just like in the two previous wars, they failed to do so. Another sector of the war was Punjab. Here both sides tried to attack. After a heavy artillery barrage, the 11th Infantry Division of Pakistan crossed the border in the Hussainiwala sector with an aim to advance beyond the Sutlej River and capture the important Hussainiwala Canal. The Pakistanis made an immediate advance, capturing a foothold in the area. The outnumbered 15th Punjab Regiment offered resistance with the help of the Indian Air Force, managing to slow down the Pakistani advance and destroy the bridge over the river, preventing the Pakistani armoured thrust on Ferozepur. Here, the 11th Infantry Division managed to capture the western bank of the Sutlej River beyond the international border, and then advanced to capture the fortress of Kaiser-i-Hind, but failed to develop their success beyond that. Another cross-border attack on Fazilka by the Pakistani 6th Frontier Force Regiment, launched on December 3rd, was also initially successful. But the 4th Jat Regiment and a squadron of the 18th Cavalry Regiment halted the Pakistani advance. Pakistan also attempted an attack on Rajasthan. On December 4th, the 18th Infantry Division, spearheaded by more than 40 tanks, advanced on Longawala. This area was defended by only 120 Indian soldiers of the 12th Infantry Division, according to Indian sources. Longewala was not initially protected by minefields, and the only thing facing the Pakistani army here was hastily erected anti-tank barbed wire. After reaching the barbed wire, the Pakistanis thought that there were minefields beyond it. This forced them to stop and wait for sappers to clean out the area, which was not mined. This gave India sufficient time to muster up the air force to target the Pakistani forces, while the outnumbered ground forces used their high ground and anti-tank weapons to destroy dozens of Pakistani tanks. The 18th Infantry Division was forced to withdraw. The Battle of Longewala was a major defeat for the Pakistani army against an outnumbered enemy on the Western Front. So, the Pakistani strategy of forcing the Indian army to divert its attention from the Eastern Front did not work out. All of their attacks had only minor success or no success at all. And not only did India manage to defend here, but they even attempted their own counteroffensives. The Indian First Corps conducted an offensive between the Basanta and Ravi rivers into the Shakak sector from two axes to prevent any Pakistani attack on Jammu from the south on December 5th. They succeeded here to gain significant ground, coming dangerously close to the key Pakistani base of operations, Sialkot, before the ceasefire was announced. The Indian army also conducted successful offensives in the Naya Chor and the Ran of Kutch sectors, which was a further blow to the Pakistani strategy on the Western Front. But the fate of the 1971 war was arguably decided on the Eastern Front. And here the Indian army had complete strategic initiative. The Indian advance was rapid and decisive. Even before the conventional war started on December 3rd, India gained a foothold beyond the border in the Garibpur and Bagura sectors. After the start of the war, the Indian Air Force practically destroyed the Pakistani Air Force in East Pakistan, while the Navy blockaded its ports. Remember that East Pakistan was surrounded by India on three sides and the ocean in the south. A smaller Pakistani army, without a proper capacity to resupply, was practically doomed. The Indian offensive into East Pakistan was multi-pronged. In the northwestern sector, the 20th Mountain Division and 202nd Mountain Brigade engaged the 16th Division of Pakistan and a few thousand paramilitaries in the border town of Hilli. The Pakistanis held the line for days, offering stiff resistance until December 11th, when the 16th Division had to withdraw, only because the advance of the 71st Mountain Brigade from Pachagatha Kurgaon threatened to encircle them. By December 16th, the Indians had captured a large swathe of land between Rangpur and Bogra. The 2nd Indian Corps, consisting of the 9th Infantry Division and the 4th Mountain Division, was attacking in the southwestern sector. The 4th Division quickly advanced from Dashana to Janaida, before diverting forces to move on Magura along the N7 highway, and Kushtia along the N704 highway. Meanwhile, the 9th Division moved from Garibpur on Jessore, capturing this major Pakistani stronghold on December 6th. From there, they moved south on Kulna. The overwhelmed Pakistani defences could not hold the Indians, who captured Kushtia on December 15th, while the 107th Brigade surrendered to the 9th Division near Kulna. This meant that practically all of the area southwest of the Padma River was now under Indian Mukti Bahini control. Another axis of the Indian advance was carried out by the 95th Mountain Brigade from the north, which focused on the important Pakistani stronghold of Jamalpur and Kamalpur on the way to Dhaka. The Battle of Kamalpur had been going on since November, and several Indian attempts were repulsed by the 31st Baluch Regiment. But the constant battles had significantly weakened the Pakistanis, who were running desperately low on supplies. On December 4th, the Mukti Bahini launched a decisive attack, forcing the Pakistanis to give up Kamalpur. A similarly bloody battle took place for Jamalpur, which fell to the 95th Brigade on December 10th. But perhaps the decisive blow to the Pakistani army in this sector was inflicted on the following day, when the 2nd Parachute Battalion of India landed in Tangail, in the rear of the Pakistani troops retreating from Jamalpur. Here the Pakistanis suffered heavy losses. By December 16th, some of the Indian units in this sector had reached Dhaka. But arguably the most important axis of advance of the Indian army was led by the 4th Corps from the east. This was the shortest route to Dhaka. On December 3rd, the 57th Mountain Division advanced on Akaura and defeated the 27th Pakistani Brigade to capture this town. To the north, the 81st Mountain Brigade advanced from Kulara, while the 59th Brigade moved on Fenchuganj. By December 7th, they were attacking the 14th Division in Sylhet. Their will to resist the Indian attacks fell apart when the Indian paratroopers landed in their rear, forcing more than 6,000 Pakistani soldiers to surrender. the Pakistani army in Bengal was falling apart. Advancing from virtually all directions, the Indian forces were closing in on Dhaka. On December 16th, the Pakistani Eastern Command surrendered. Outnumbered and lacking in supplies, the Pakistani army was routed for the first time in the history of the Indo-Pakistani wars. India gained its first decisive victory in the history of its conflict with Pakistan. They defeated the Pakistani military in Bengal, paving the way for the emergence of Bangladesh. The Indian victory solidified the country's claim to regional power, which has since grown to expand its impact on global affairs. It also changed the perception of the Indian military among the Indian people. Following the defeat by China in the 1962 war, the Indian public was down on its army, but the 1971 war completely changed this perception, boosting the prestige of the army. Meanwhile, Pakistan suffered a crushing defeat, losing half of the country as a result. This defeat played a role in further militarization of Pakistani society, with the military's influence increasing even more. The 1972 Simla Agreement formally put an end to the war, as the sides agreed to withdraw to their pre-war positions, except in Jammu and Kashmir, where the new line of contact, based on the outcome of the 1971 war, was established. India and Pakistan committed to resolve further disputes through diplomacy, but this was not the last war to be fought between the two. We will talk about their conflicts more very soon, so subscribe and press the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our patrons and YouTube members can watch more than 200 exclusive videos. Join their ranks via the link in the description or by pressing the join button under the video to watch these weekly videos, learn about our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our private Discord, and much more. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.